As a Christian, I've sought to live my life trying to understand and hear what God's saying, and quite often being in the right place at the right time, or trying to be. Sometimes not achieving that, and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, but trying to be in the right place at the right time. And 10 years ago, or maybe 11 years ago, I was sitting as the faith rep on the Sutton Partnership, and I remember Warren came and did a presentation, I think, with Richard Gough. And there was an amazing statistic that was that Sutton had fear of crime as high as some in the London boroughs. And I don't know about you, but that's quite shocking, really, isn't it? But it was then, anyway. And I remember the challenge that was put out was to partners around the table. Could we do something about that? You know, what can we do? So there was that kind of wind coming from that direction and blowing my hair that way. And then a man called Les Isaac came to my church on St Helier and didn't just turn up. I invited him to come, and I invited him to come because I wanted my church to get out of the church into the community. And it wasn't for him to talk about street pastors, but to actually encourage us to get out, because that, I think, has been Les's heart for many years, is to get people out of the church and into the community. And it just so happened that when he came that night, that he spoke about street pastors. In fact, we couldn't stop him talking about street pastors. And I sat there, and you know when the penny drops? And the penny dropped, and the wind blew from that direction, and the two winds came together. And then after that, Les and I met with Warren, and that's how Street Pastors in Sutton started, in case you didn't know. It wasn't like we sat down and thought, oh, Street Pastors is a good idea, let's bring it to Sutton. It was more, it felt like it was the right thing, at the right time, God moving. And that's how, as a Christian, I want to live my life. And that's how I believe God moves, and that's what we want, isn't it? And it's a great privilege to have Les with us tonight. You need visionaries, don't you? I'm not sure I'm a visionary. I had the vision 10 years ago to do something in Sutton because I felt like I was in the middle of these two winds. I felt that's what God wanted. I'm not sure that's a vision, but I felt that's what God wanted me to do. But Les had the vision 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Yeah. And it's great to have Les here to start a movement with 0 to now something like 12,000 street pastors and school pastors and people in the UK. I think you've got street pastors in Antigua, beach pastors, is it? Yes. 365 beaches in Antigua, is that right? One for every day of the year. Yeah. I'm feeling God calling me to Antigua. But it's a great privilege to have Les with us, and so I really want to invite Les to come up and just share his heart and vision with us tonight. So Les.
Thank you. And school pastors here in Sutton. But also let me just say that I'm excited that the council, the police, the nighttime economy, that we recognize that actually together we have an impact on our community. None of us on our own could fulfill what we all desire for, that is, as a community that's thriving, a community full of hope and aspiration on our own. We do it together. There's a scripture that says, unity is strength. And you know, it's interesting because as I was sitting there, I was thinking about two experiences that I had. One, I was in Jamaica. Jamaica, when you hear about Jamaica, you think about Montego Bay, Negril, Ocho Rios, you know, and some really exotic place. Ian Fleming got his inspiration from Jamaica. And if you haven't been to Jamaica, you don't know what you're missing. But in Jamaica, you come to the capital, Kingston, and it was chaos. 13 years ago, chaos. I went down and did a television program, and the interviewer asked me, well, how many homicides do you get a year? And I was, you know, angry, and I was saying too much. I said, last year, we had 20 young people had their lives taken. And everybody just went. Now, when they do that in the West Indies, they're just saying, and I was just taken back. because I would still be, angry because of one. Anyway, after the filming, I said, what's wrong? He said, you're talking about 20 a year. We're having 38 a day. And I was just blown away. But then I went to the inner city, a place called Trenchtown. And there I met church leaders. I met community workers, all meeting together, praying, talking about together we could make a change. They overcame theological differences. They overcame traditional differences in how we do church. They really got the message that if something of significance was going to happen, it's together. That resonated with me. I went to Antigua, met with the Prime Minister, and we were talking. He said, Les, we don't have the problem Jamaica has. We don't have the problem England has. But you know something? I want to prevent it. Prevention is better than cure. So I want you to help us to set this up. And so there was two different contrasts. And yet tonight we are here in Sutton and we are meeting people whose vision, actually, what you're taking part of tonight, came out of pain, came out of despair. Mark said he's not a visionary, but I remember going to a good friend of mine, a vicar in North London, and we had a lunchtime meeting with church leaders. I rang him up the next day and I said, Roy, how was that meeting? What's the feedback? He said, one of my colleagues felt that you were too ambitious. You can imagine how I felt. In a time of desperation, in a time of great need, people were saying, you're too ambitious. I thank God that Mark says, we could do something here. We don't want it to become like any other borough. We want our borough, people to feel safe, to know that people are working together to have a community where young people can go and feel safe. People can go and feel safe. And it's out of that we have something like 13,000 people up and down the United Kingdom that are serving, that are walking our streets. You know, just last week we awarded some people. The oldest street pastor is 91 years of age. 91. Now you'd have thought that she would have been in bed, screwed up her wooden leg, put in her false teeth and gone to bed. 91. And she's out there. And you know what's happening? Young people are coming up and they're hugging, they're talking. All mascara is on her uniform. Why? Because some of them, they have no nans to relate to. No one to listen to them. My boyfriend have left me, so they want nan. I've got problems at home, nan. Isn't it beautiful? When we could be out there, 91 years of age, 80 years of age, 71 years of age, out there. When people tell me, oh, I'm a bit too old, I said, get a life. Get a life. We've got people there who are partially blind. We've got people there who are out there in their mobile, you know, those Batmobile. But they're out there. And people love them. And people are taken back by them. Why are people taken back by us? Because I believe that we're committed. We're committed to our community. Faith without works, the Bible says, is dead. And I honestly believe that the gospel is tangible, it's real. It's not about coming to church and sitting down and gathering woodworm in our posterior, but it's actually doing something that is relevant and tangible and meeting people where they're at. That's the gospel. That is the church that I'm part of. The church that says, serve people without prejudice. Serve people regardless of who they are, what they look like, what they do in their life. Serve them, care for them, and love them. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited that here in Sutton, men and women are saying, we want to serve. And I believe that they're taking a cue from Jesus, who's known as the servant king, who wants to serve. And you know, 12 years later, people are still asking the question, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And the golden question is always, do you get paid for this? They still ask that. And I just love their response. I love it because it's real. I often say when I get on the streets, they are not like my local church, you know. If I preach lousy in church, nobody tells me I'm lousy. You know? But I get the truth of the children. You know, if you really want to know whether the preacher's lousy, ask the children. Forget the adults. Because we're very diplomatic with the truth. How was the preaching today? Well, the Lord was there. The organist was on top form. We had a lot of money today. How was the preaching? Bless the Lord, oh my soul. But if you ask a child, and how was the preaching today? Useless. Boring. So I never, ever ask an adult. But you know, when you get on the streets, they're real. They're upfront. So when they say, which church are you from? And we say, all of them, that confuses them. Because there's a notion that churches don't work together. Well, we do. Come on. There's only one church, for goodness sake. We have different expressions, different denominations, different theology, but there's only one church. And I'm excited about the church. I'm excited that the church could do partnership with the council, with the police, with the nighttime economy. We could do it. But then they say to us, well, how long will you be doing this thing for? And it's interesting because years ago, there was a culture in the church, and we've still got to reinforce that. Listen, guys, the culture in the church was, let's spend 2 years planning a 2 weeks mission. So we take 2 years and we pray, we get the logistics right, we get the administration right, we raise the money for the 2 weeks mission. Then we take 2 weeks and we do the mission, then we go downhill. 2 years to recover from the 2 weeks. And 2 further years to say, should we do it again? 6 years to do 2 weeks. And yet society is wanting and looking for consistency. They're looking for continuity. They're looking for men and women that they're going to say, they'll be there. They care. They'll be there. They're faithful. They're consistent. And then it's interesting. They always ask us, and how much do you get paid for this? I remember I was out one night with the GP. I was teaming up with a GP, and a woman came out the pub. How much you get paid for this? Because I wouldn't effing do this for nothing less than 35 effing K. I'm saying, mate, she works for more than that. But then she comes out half an hour later, just came out again. You people are effing good. I thought, that's fantastic. That's affirmation. And then they really affirm you. And someone came up to me, hugged me up. Mate, you're an effing good geezer. Now I thought, I've never had that said to me in church. And you know why they say that? Not because they're being abusive, but because they're overwhelmed by our generosity. They become eloquent in French. They're overwhelmed. And I want to say this, that what is important as we think about tonight is this. There's always somebody looking for you. There's always somebody wanting someone to speak to. There's always somebody who's saying, nobody cares for me. There's always somebody in our community who's looking for a person that they know that they could talk to, who will not judge them, but who will be sympathetic to them, care for them, listen to them, and sometimes say nothing whatsoever. That's our role. That's our role as the church, as the street pastors. They are children. Never forget the children saying to the head that we go on the buses that the school pastors go because we feel much safer then. Isn't it incredible? It's important for us to recognize that problems will not go away just like that. Someone once said, where 2 or 3 are gathered, sin is in the midst. There's always people who've got problems and issues. And that's why there will always be a need for people who are willing to make themselves available and to serve. I was on the streets in Lambeth and Brixton one night, and I had a few friends with me. And this guy was really aggressive, really abusive. Now, I don't take things personally from people because people come out with excess baggage. And people come out with aggression. Maybe, the wife didn't cook the dinner for them that night, maybe, whatever. But this guy was swearing at us, really aggressive. And we just listened. And I'm thinking, let it out, my friend, it's okay, just talk. But after half an hour, don't like your religion, but I like what you do. I thought, that's good news. But then he moved a step higher. It's cold out here. Come up to my flat, get a cup of tea. I thought, fantastic. Hospitality. But then he moved to another level. A cup of tea and 2 spliff. I thought, you can't get any better than that. I said, well, actually, I'm a Christian, but I'll take it home to my wife. But it's amazing, isn't it? When the local restaurant is saying, come in, you're people of peace. Come in, eat. When the kebab man says, what would you have? Come in. When McDonald's say, come and have coffee. Come and sit down and rest. It's because they recognize something good is happening. I was with 30 people today, at least 25 of them men. Drug addict, alcoholic, sleeping rough in a neighboring bar. And the appreciation they had that somebody is willing to cook for them and serve them. I got myself in trouble today because I said, I'm coming back next year to cook you rice and peas and a good chicken curry. And I love cooking. But you see, what is life if we're not living to serve others? And at the heart of the gospel, I want to encourage us. We are called to serve others. Keep serving. Keep loving. Keep caring. Keep praying for your borough. And as you do that, you will do what Jesus has called us to do. He said, you're the salt of the earth. And he says, men will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And as they glorify God, they come to a realization. It's not about pie in the sky, this guy with a beard up there. It's about relationship. It's about unequivocal love. It's about grace. It's about goodness. It's about hope, and it's about peace. So I want to encourage you, keep going. I want to thank the council and the police for your support, because you have contributed to what we're doing. It is a partnership. We do what we do because you've supported us in more than one way. And I want to say thank you for that. I've often said to people, it's okay, we could disagree with certain things. But when it comes to life, when it comes to peace, we've got to be around the table. We've got to talk. We've got to work for the greater good. And so tonight, I want to say congratulations, and let's keep going. Let's keep being that Christian soldier, just serving Jesus in a very relevant and practical way. Thank you.